Makes me think, do you want to be in the video? Is that a no? I think that's a no. They've decided to fight each other on the floor. Hello, my name is Eltonin, and welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about fashion, lifestyle, and media with a little bit of an alternative twist. Today's redesign is going to be Monster High. I love Monster High. I really do. They're some of my favorite little girlies, and I'm so excited to talk about them. For this video, I think just because Monster High is one of those things that there's so many potentials for it, it's not going to be like a overhaul rewrite, but more of individual headcanons and ideas that I have for these characters, and not necessarily here's how the plot of Monster High will be. I don't have every single one of the characters just yet, but I do have the main dolls that I have. I think I'm only missing a couple. I wanted to do a whole makeup thing for the Monster High video, and then my body decided to have an allergy attack, so instead we are being sad. We are getting started with our main girl, are the most iconic girly of the bunch, and that is Miss Draculaura. Draculaura hair is so iconic. It's so iconic. The chunky pink highlights. I couldn't have a Monster High video without talking about it. And now I'll immediately show you other Draculaura hair. The biggest thing with Monster High is I wanted to give everybody a couple of different hair designs, because even in Gen 1, their hairs would change depending on the line. For Draculaura, I wanted to keep those vibes of the pink highlights, but I wanted to give it a little bit of a different spin. The tips of the hair is so fun, especially when the rest of the hair is like a bright, vivid color and the ends are like a black or a white. It's so cool. Does it fade weirdly sometimes? Yes. Does it still look cool? Yes. Here's another version of a Draculaura hair. This is a very similar style to that. I just did it more of a Ghost Roots type thing, where the pink is less. Hot pink and black look so good together. A little mini board for Draculaura. I wanted to put a lot more Lolita outfits on here, but I forgot that Lolita is a banned word on Pinterest for whatever fucking reason. That's dumb. Okay, you've got to understand that's so stupid. I was searching for things and tried to find things that are a little bit Victorian inspired. I love having each of the Monster High girlies have a different alternative base. I know, especially with Gen 1, there wasn't like, oh, they're like specifically goth, or they're specifically Y2K, or they're specifically like one specific aesthetic. So I'm really down to have all of the girls kind of like flit in between things, but I want them to have one main, like, that is what it is. So for Draculaura, I was really into the concept of her having like sweet gothic Lolita aesthetic, which isn't one of the major Lolita's aesthetics. She either had like sweet Lolita or gothic Lolita, and I wanted gothic Lolita with like so much more pink. So I have these concept up here for her with the big poofy skirts and the bows, and I think especially with her, I love her having these underlining motifs of bats. I think that's really cool. So I'd love to have more bats and bows incorporated with her outfits. The biggest issue that I have with her Generation 3 outfit, I need more. I need her to do more. I need more layers. I need more, like, very clearly Victorian inspired clothing. And that gets into my biggest headcanon with Draculaura, is that she's like over 1,000 years old. She's fully 1,600 years old, something like that. That's Roman times. So why does she not look like she's been alive for 1,000 years? I know she's a vampire and everything. The biggest thing with vampires is that they have, especially in a thing like Monster High that leans in like a touch into stereotypical vampires while also putting their own spin on it. The biggest thing with vampires is that they look like they're from the Victorian era, the Edwardian era. They look old-timey, but not so old-timey that you're like, what the fuck is a Greek philosopher doing in 2024? So the biggest thing with Draculaura is I want her to be really obsessed with Victorian fashion, Rococo fashion, and then taking those spins on that. Biggest things for her would be a lot of Lolita fashion, a lot of Lolita fashion inspiration, a lot of Victorian fashion inspiration, but taking that and making it her own, but having these big skirted silhouettes, having capes, the bows, the frills would definitely make her stand out, and not in a bad way because all of the Monster High characters stand out from each other, but stand out in the sense that you believe that she is 1,600 years old and not 14 and just learned how to shop on Shein. Like, she should be very meticulous about her clothing. She should know the time it takes to put into her clothing. She doesn't have to be a fashionista, but she does have to be someone that is very much aware of how long it takes to create garments and thus have honestly the smallest wardrobe of everyone else. Like, everyone else can go in like multiple different outfits, but I want her to be an outfit repeater. To Claudine Wolf, I adore Claudine. She was always one of my favorites. I think it was because she ended up like the fashionista girlies of the group, and for her right now her design includes this like blonde-ish moment. I honestly prefer her with darker hair, just because there's so many characters with so many different colored hair. Having her have a more natural colored hair I think would be fun, especially if she plays around with it. Biggest thing with Monster High, nobody has just one hair color. So this I found not even intentionally. I was just scrolling through my own page looking for hair designs for work, and I came across this and I'm like, oh my god. That's such a Claudine hairstyle with, and it's mixing a little bit of the blonde, the purple streak, and the darker hair that I would want to have in my own headcanon. This is my mini Claudine board. I really want her to lean into a very purple version of the Y2K aesthetic. I think drawing on what is currently considered Y2K aesthetic and not necessarily original Y2K aesthetic, like a lot of animal print, because that's such an iconic part of her. Think for her, I'd want her to stay very much in a zebra cow print type beat, just because there's another character that I want to lean more leopard. Lots of faux fur detailing, mini skirts, things shiny. For her, I want her to be for Claudine, I want her to be very, very bright. I think this outfit right here is the only exception to it, because I think with her bright purple aesthetic, it would be a very good contrast to her. In my mind, there's like a storyline of her, Draculaura, and Frankie get into like a whole little fight or whatever, and they break up as a friend group, thinking like Spectra and Twyla. She changes her vibes to fit in with that group more, just because Draculaura is very like bright pink, Claudine is very bright purple, and Frankie is very like bright blue, bright green. So having her adopt a darker purple and more blacks into her wardrobe would be a contrast to show how she's trying to force herself to fit in a friend group that isn't necessarily her own. She doesn't need to, in theory, adopt the darker clothing, but she feels like she has to. Yeah, I just think this is so fun for her. She's one of my favorites. God, like she's so cool. Biggest headcanon with Claudine is, in my mind, everyone is gay, okay? Draculaura is a little bit bisexual and everything, but I think for Claudine, in my headcanon, her storyline would be about her realizing that she is like, my biggest headcanon for her is that her storyline would be that she's realizing that she's a lesbian and like a little struggle with like her own personal identity. I want her to go on so many blind dates because Draculaura and Frankie really want them to like go out as like a little group, setting her up on blind dates, and she meets all of these men and like fine or whatever. Hijinks ensue. Draculaura ends up breaking up with her boyfriend and goes on a date with Cleo, and Cleo's like, oh no, I'm in love with my best friend. Right? That'd be so dramatic. It'd be so fun and be real silly. And there has to be so many complicated schemes. Draculaura and Frankie are having this massive, complicated plan for no reason. They don't have to do, no one asked them to do this, but they have lists and boards, and they're trying to like, you remember the quizzes that you take in like magazines that are like, who is your perfect celebrity crush, by asking you like, what's your favorite color, what do you like to do outside? So they keep trying to do that, they keep trying to pair her up with people, not realizing that all of her answers end up being Draculaura, and then they go on a little date, and then they're dating, and it's really cute. I have been a Frankie stan since the beginning. I loved her. I love them. I will love every iteration of them. I just think they're so fun. Is it because I am deeply obsessed with the Frankenstein story? Yes. That's 100% what it is. I am a Frankenstein girly in every single iteration possible. You give me a Frankenstein character. You don't give me a Frankenstein character. I will make a Frankenstein character. I eat up Frankenstein media, so of course I was gonna love Frankie. I love their hair. The Bride of Frankenstein has the little white pieces, which is where Frankie gets all of their pieces. I don't mind the Gen 3 hair. I just think the white and the black braids or white and black highlights are so iconic that I can't help but to want those over the blue streak. I would, however, be very much down with the real plotline of Frankie kind of exploring their themselves and like their gender expression and ending up with those streaks of hair. I would love that, where it's like, oh, I want to change something about myself, like blue streak, green streak, things like that. I would be down for that, but I really love the dominance of the black and white highlights. So this is the little mini board that I created for Frankie. So Frankie's hard because in my mind she's school preppy alternative, which is very difficult to find in outfits that have been styled already, just because it's a niche of a niche of a niche. So I could find a whole bunch of individual pieces that I would style for Frankie, but not so much outfits that have already been styled. They're kind of just experience. So for Frankie's story, I want them to be very much experimenting with fashion. So like this two-piece Argyle set that I have over in the corner over here, I want that to be mixed and matched. Like I want you to see them in the set, and then the next time you see it, it's been split up. So the Argyle sweater vest has been paired with like a pair of jeans, and then the skirt has been paired with like a leather jacket and a different top. They're constantly mixing and matching all of these items of clothing. I very much do want to keep them in the brands of green and blue. I don't want them to experiment with too many colors outside of the green and the blue. Blacks and whites and grays are fine, but keep them in like a green blue kind of territory, and I want them to kind of mimic the style of whoever they're getting close to in the moment. When, like, if they're having like a Frankie Dracula episode, Frankie's in a little bit more formal attire, or if there's a Frankie Claudine episode, they're in a little bit more scene Y2K than like glitter pop Y2K. The half skirt right over here, I'd love to have them that be a part of their ending costume when they've kind of like figured out their own identity and they're no longer copying or mimicking what other people are wearing. I love for that skirt to be included because it's kind of this half and half like mismatch vibe going on, but it's still like a complete like clothing piece. There's the ghost streets, which I would love to have Frankie have in one of their dolls. How many of you guys know about tinsel hair? Because this is what it is, and this is what Cleo should have. Cleo should have dark black hair, and it's a play off of her original design where she's got like these like fun little streaks in it, and that those streaks should be tinsel. Ma'am, are you good? You don't need to shove yourself into the tiniest possible spaces. It's okay. This is my mini board for Cleo. Tinsel like this hair right over in the far corner. The hardest thing to do for Cleo is that canonically she has to be wearing some of her bandages, but she doesn't have to wear all of them all of the time. So for her, we're not going rich girl. We're not going any of like this, what you would think a mean girl would wear. We're going fully in a trend from a trend from the past couple years. There is this thing called subversive basics, which are kind of ripping up clothing to make like your basic white tee or black tee or pants more edgy. So you can already see the vibe that we're going, where it's very much feels like wrapped, feels very like that is what I'm going for. I want sexy mommy. The popular girl can be in distressed clothing. That's okay. And I love her for it. Her storyline is I am a big fan of Deuce and Cleo, and then Generation 3 came along and they put Cleo and Frankie together, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. So I want them to date. I think, especially because I want Frankie. Do you guys This is dumb. Oh my god, So if you guys were ever involved with the My Hero Academia fandom, I've talked about My Hero Academia in way too many videos in a row, and honestly, it's their fault for ending the series. Now I can't stop thinking about it. The pairing of Kirishima and Bakugo is what I want Frankie and Cleo's relationship to look like. Cleo's mean, but she's nice to Frankie, and Frankie takes everything in stride, but is also able to call Cleo out. And they're the only person who can be like, maybe she should apologize. And then Cleo's like, okay. Now, Laguna exists on this line between either if you love her, she's your favorite, or if you don't love her, you're like, well, she completes the collection type beat. And I think that's kind of sad. And it's very much, at least for me, because I hated her boyfriend. I fucking hated that man. And she keeps dating him, and I'm like, he sucks. So for her storyline, it's very easy for me. I want her to be the sporty girl. I want her to be in like jerseys and Nikes, and like she's sporty and fun and everything, and like she's very colorful and like keeps hopping between the colors of the rainbows, got the blonde and blue and pink hair. And then I want her storyline to be that she's with this dick of a man until he does some bullshit and she dumps him. You have two options in Elton's Monster High: gay or single and gay. No men allowed. They're boring. I love Gulia. I love Gulia so much. She's an absolute sweetie. She's so intelligent and she's cool. And I don't think enough people realize that she's cool. And by that, we change very little about her personality and we only change her clothing. These two hairs right in the corner, very, very similar. Almost exactly the same. I would fully bet that if either one of these people would have shown the other picture to their hairstylist in cotton. Biggest thing I love about Gulia's whole design is the contrast of the blue and the red together. Her cherry top is iconic, so I had to include that cherry top on here. And then for the rest of her outfits, I very much wanted to be very alternative with pops of red. I loved this thin spiderweb crochet dress type beat. I thought that was so cool, especially with the rips in the jeans with the lacing and everything. These outfits eat, or over in the corner with like the striped sweater and the boots, or even the one in the middle right over here with the really distressed dress that's kind of giving like slay zombie, which that's what Gulia is a slay zombie. If there's any character that I could forgive for having a boyfriend, it's Gulia. Why? Because she deserves the world. She absolutely deserves a boyfriend who will worship her. So Gulia can have a boyfriend. Twyla is also one of my girlies. I think this hair right up here is the first one that I found for her, and it's the teal and the purple just fit her so well. Also, I have these other two options. She's very giving very for her clothing. I very want it to be lean more whimsical goth or like hippie goth with lots of like celestial elements, like the little moon belt and like skirts and flowing dresses. I love in Gen 3 that they made her canonically autistic. So for her clothing, I want it to be very much, she prefers comfort over everything else. All of her fabrics are super soft. And there's nothing that looks particularly itchy that doesn't have like an underlayer underneath it. And she's another character that I want her to outfit repeat a lot, because as someone who is also autistic, the amount of times that I have worn the exact same shirt multiple weeks in a row just because I know that's like a very comfortable outfit is very high. It happens minimum once a week, if not 3 times a week. I have other clothing. I just get drawn to the same 3 t-shirts and the same 3 pants. Gen 3's storyline really fits her really well. So she's very shy, but she's working on like getting out of her shell a little bit. And making friends and everything, and I just think that's really cute. Toralei slays so hard. Toralei slays so hard all the time, and she is the one that I want in leopard print. I don't want Claudine in leopard print. I want Toralei in leopard print, and I want Claudine and Toralei to be in constant competition with each other. They're both the fashionistas of their own respective friend groups. They're going toe to toe with each other, and then you've got the cat and the wolf, and I just think that's fun. But specifically with Toralei, I want her in calico hair. I want her in calico hair. Why? Because it looks so good, especially the bright, vibrant orange with even the one right up here that has those leopard spots on it. I want to do calico hair so bad. Hit me up. I will do it. I want to do it. Outfit wise, I very much wanted to have a lot of leopard print, and then, the rock star girlfriend aesthetic. That is what I very much want her to be, where it's like edgy and cool, and it's like lots of mini skirts and leather and boots and fur, but it's also stuff that she can move around in and like headbang to and everything. I want her to play the guitar. I want Twilight to play the guitar. Do I have a proper reason why? No. I just want her to play the guitar. I think that she's so cool, and she should be even cooler. Abby Abominable is my favorite girl in the whole wide, 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 wide world, and I think she slays so hard, and there's very little that I would change about her vibe and everything. I love that she's incredibly blunt and that she says exactly what she means, and that even though people think of her as like a little bit scary and everything, she's genuinely trying to make friends and help people out. For her hair, I wanted to keep it very same, like very icy platinum. I found this one with these icy locks, and uh, they're just pretty. The hardest thing about making these boards is looking at all of these beautiful women and non-binary people and being like, happy. Yeah, Abby's aesthetic is just so easy because it's just snow girly. Throw her in some furry boots, throw her in blues and purples, and like it's just so fun. It is freezing temperatures outside, but I will wear a skirt. And because she's an abominable snowman, she can wear a shirt and not feel cold. So absolutely she should be in skirts, and I think it'd be so fun to have a winter episode. Like you have a beach episode, you have a winter episode. Everyone else bundled up and everything, and then she comes out in like not a jacket and like her little mini skirt and her heels, a loose top. The colder it gets, the less layers she puts on. Like, oh my god, it's finally a comfortable temperature. Okay, my head canon is that all of the layers that she wears is actually keeping her cool. The ice, like, lined inside to try to keep her cool, keep her temperature down. So when it gets cold, she just has less clothes. On the flip side of Icy, we get into Venus. This hair I specifically saw for Venus, especially for her Gen 1 version, right up here. And then Venus for Gen 3, her design, impeccable. But she has all of these little braids, so I definitely wanted to find more protective styles. But it was so difficult to find protective styles in neon green and pink. How rude is that? Like, I could find neon green, I could find pink, I couldn't find both of those together. But I did find these two. This one has like little butterflies, if I believe, and then one over here has like the pink and the green locks, and I think they just look so cool. So I know right now Venus has a really punky aesthetic, which I love for her. I just couldn't find a lot of patch pants in neon green and pink. Love Venus to death. Her color scheme, incredibly difficult to find. So instead, just to make sure that I had enough outfits to have her on the board instead of just being like, this is the one pair of pants, I pulled out like a more fairy grunge-esque with a lot of, there's the one right up here that's like stitched together sweaters and everything with like a skull motif, because everybody in Monster High has a skull motif somewhere. I have this like knitted moth capelet and these other little items like these big flowing skirt and then this like leafy jacket over here. I want a lot of her clothing to be very much handmade, like the patched together sweater, which the longer I look at it, the more I want to make something that looks like that, but I don't need to make things right now. I need to wear the clothing I have. I'm gonna put it on a list to make it. Even the crocheted little crop sweater over there, where it's like very much handmade, but in like a distressed kind of way, which I love. Lots of layerings, lots of pinks and greens and floral motifs and everything. I love her. She's just so cool. She's just so cool that I can't change her outfits and I can't change her story because she's so cool and I'm just in love with her. Moving on to another Monster High character that I had a big gay crush on as a child was Spectra. Spectra's very easy to style because you've got pink and purple hair, you mix them together, you throw in some celestial motifs, and then you make them goth. Right over here, it's like these big flowing skirts and like sheer layers. Everything needs to look like it whips around in the wind. I think she had the most amount of outfits that I picked out just because it's just so easy to make a goth ghost. I just think Spectra's cool. And then we get on to Another one of my favorite girlies, which I do not have the doll for, and that is Miss Catty Noir. Catty Noir, I picked the most amount of hair for just because hot pink is very fun to find. I have this hot pink over here. I have these hot pink protective styles as well. I've got this like hot pink into black goddess braids. I have just pink goddess braids. Over here, this also had hot pink hair. I threw in my own friend because I could not find the hot pink hair. I know that they've done it before because I did it to them, but I could not find it. I want to lean. Do you remember how I talked about having Claudine be very much Y2K, like a 2024 Y2K? Catty Noir is old school Y2K and very much a Leah core. So it's like hot pink and fun and flirty. To also wear a leopard print as well. I'm just obsessed with putting the cat characters in Monster High in leopard print, and I'll defend that decision. I will. But I love her in a hot pink. I love her in a hot pink mixed with a little bit of black, mixed with a little bit of white, mixed a little bit with specifically light blue denim. I haven't talked a lot about denim because I think denim seems so contradictory to Monster High characters for some reason. She is a light blue denim girly. But yeah, so that is Catty Noir. And for now, we are done. Not for long. When they release the other girls, we will go over the other girlies. If you want me to write out a whole plot line for Monster High with my own ideas, I would do it. I just think there's just so many possibilities with them that's very difficult to be like, oh, this is the definitive Monster High plot line, just because there's so many options. Other concepts for redesigned videos I think are going to be Winx, Lore Olympus, and then within the next like week or so, Emily in Paris comes out, and I remember the first video I ever did in this series, someone asked for Emily in Paris redesign, so that is on the schedule. Like, any other things that you want me to, like, redesign, restyle, let me know, and I would be happy to do them. If you made it this far in the video, let me know which of the Gen 3 Monster High dolls you would buy, or if you have any. I've got all of these girlies right here. Thank you so much for watching. I very much appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye.